Welcome to not Shardcast. We're not treating this as a Shardcast. Welcome to an interview cast by the 17th Shard. I am joined here today by someone whose name we talked about for 10 minutes before the call. Let's go with Marie. Marie Seeberger. LaMaery, not LaMarie, LaMaery in the places that are online. Why are you here on my call today, Marie? Why do we have you here? What do you do?
I am an illustrator. I make art, and I make art for the Cosmere RPG, and I make fan art, like a lot. I just had my 500th post on the Instagram account, LaMaery and the Cosmere. And we talk about making the art for the World Guide book for the Stormlight RPG, and a little bit about the processes behind that, and my role in the art team, which I'm in with Johnny O'Neill and Katie Payne. They are the main force. I'm always sitting on the side here in Germany, like making my art on the side, and sometimes there's like, oh, what do you think about this? And I look at the art and go like, let's draw over this. But yeah, they know what is there, all the art. They know what all the art is. I know mostly what I am doing here. Trying to come up with ideas and places and traveling Roshar in my mind.
I mean, I can't complain about that. So if listeners and viewers, if you have been living in a rock that doesn't have internet connection, you maybe don't know that the Cosmere is getting an RPG. The project formerly known as the Stormlight RPG is now the Cosmere RPG. And Marie is doing a whole bunch of concept art. Is that fair to say?
Well, I am officially under the name concept artist. I guess I am, so yeah. I'm one of the main artists in, some way. For now, for the Stormlight RPG, I have not done anything for Mistborn RPG yet.
We'll get there. And so
there's always next year.
Famous bondsmith ideal. So are you only involved with the world guide, or are you also touching the handbook as well and the adventures?
I don't know yet. I'm making something extra. I don't know where that will end up in. Further than actually the thing, like I mainly do the things for the world guide. Other than that, I've mainly have been involved in internal test plays and testing the Stonewalker campaign. Just last week we finished our last session for that, like in a main, like tested the final battle and that thing. And yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I heard someone
turned into cheese.
Yeah, I heard someone got turned into cheese, which is
yes. Soul cast into cheese. Beautiful.
An interesting, for how little cheese features in the Stormlight archive, I am astounded by how often it features in media and conversation around and about the Stormlight archive.
Well, that's Brandon's fault, isn't it? By admitting that it is a thing that stops a shark plate.
That is true. We can always
making it Brandon. Like too powerful. We reasoned within the series that my character, who was very, very cooking and food, was like a big interest of him. So he would have been who told the listener character, who then soul cast someone into cheese, about cheese as a concept in general.
I see. And okay. I mean, yeah. that's about the level of insanity I expect from an RPG campaign, really.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that's you can play the most horrific setting imaginable with the most serious game, and someone will do just something insane, like turn the big bad evil guy into a slob of cheese. But let's contain our love for cheese and go back to something a little bit more professional. And we can do a conversation, and we can also dip into a little bit of art. I believe some of the work that you were doing for the Stormlight World Guide has been described as kind of a world hopper Lightweaver who was going around Roshar and like cataloging in a travelogue style, I guess the different places and people and flora, like everything about Roshar, essentially. Is that fair to say?
In a way, yes. Like the pitch Johnny took me for the series was to make some kind of diegetic art, basically, like the art we have in the books too. And so yeah, he wanted to have this travelogue style with like a journal sketchbook. They ended up being, I think, more eloquent and more elaborate than just a sketchbook would be. So in my imagination, and this kind of came together some more when for the Gen Con, Brotherwise made the Chasm Fiend magazine, and I had to write a tiny article about what is happening there. I had the option either telling something about the process or using the voice of the artist who is running around on that world describing what they're doing. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That's much more fun. So yeah, we wrote a little text that was about this person who was given the task by wealthy patrons to do exactly that, traveling Roshar and describing the locations and kind of gathering impressions, and by that kind of showing different locations, showing their vibes, like fizzling out little details about the places. And I wanted it to give exactly that, like give different impressions of various places. Since all of these pages are 1.5 double page or 1 page, they are always so much less that I actually would want to show. So if I had more time and more energy, I would have made more and would have loved to do more. But yeah, as it is, I am kind of glad being able to finish that series soon, because it kind of, I poured a lot into it, and now I'm feeling slightly empty.
Also, there should probably be room for, as much as I love art, official and fan, there should probably be room for text in those things. And we'll see what the final thing looks like.
There is text around that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There is probably such a thing as too much art. I haven't seen it yet, but conceptually, there's probably such a thing as too much.
I'm not sure. This depends on the art. But yeah, for the world guide travel pages, allocation pages, it was fun because there's text on those pages as well. There's like little notes, which was fun to kind of, and for those notes I use first person POV, basically, like, oh yeah, I went there, I saw this, and we got in there. Oh, it was really convenient actually to be like use my light weaving to get in there. Oh, we used the light. It was really good. We could use our light weaving to get into the Azish throne room to actually see the Emperor. Very practical.
Wow, they got to see the Emperor. That's a rare honor.
Yeah, it's a lottery, and you could take part in. Great. But it also is an opportunity, like, for example, on the Thaylen city page, you see a figure, like a female Thaylen figure running around. So all the pages feature a big establishing shot of the location. So here you have this woman figure, a female figure, and she appears a few times. Because I always wanted it really to give the impression someone was walking around the place, and just like you when you travel, you go there. Here's she again at the fountain, and to kind of give different impressions of the city. We get the gemstone reserve, which is still under reconstruction, which was also the fun thing, like actually getting in bits from the book. We got the bronze wall in the city wall right here that Jasna made. And it's like, oh,
Nice.
yes, put that in there. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's fun to be able to put stuff into the world building that hasn't been like generated yet. I think I spent over like the whole December trying to figure out different form of ships for various cultures in Roshar, ships that look not too European, but also kind of would work in the storm. Actually talked to some people from the Maritime Museum in Hamburg because I was too caught up in my like, how does it work? And had some very interesting conversations about sailing in like stormy weather.
That dovetails nicely into something I wanted to ask you about, which is obviously there's always the question of like, where do you draw your inspiration from? But I'm curious to hear about some of the. Obviously, you've done however many dozens, I imagine, illustrations. I imagine they come from. You draw inspiration from all sorts of places because Roshar is a varied, culturally varied place. But I'm curious about some of them, and I'm also curious about where your kind of knowledge well and inspiration well runs dry, and you feel like you need to go and like, what are some of the sources, museums, whatever you've done, books that you've read that you've had to read to like flesh out some of these ideas for places that you have? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have vast collections of images that I like, big reference folders for each place, which then I usually try to coalesce into like a mood boards. This is basically something that I send with sketches and some concept ideas to Johnny and to Dragonsteel for the art review to look over, but also mainly for me to kind of like concentrate the vibes I'm going for and to go back into for inspiration once I am trying to flesh this out. It doesn't always like everything end up, but it kind of very much trying to visualize what I feel in my mind when I think about the place, to make each place give a bit of a unique twist and some kind of unique atmosphere basically. And I feel like a lot of it is coming from my own travel experiences. So, and the other part is just, searching in the internet, trying to find things that look inspiring, that feel right in a way. I don't know if I can. So for Thaylen city, there I knew I wanted these darker rocks. I knew we had a lot of coastlines. I really love the colorful lichen on the stones. At the same time, I was thinking a lot about Bravos from Game of Thrones and the design they made there, which I find like the whole set design and fashion design of Game of Thrones is so incredible. So it's a weird mix of, you see like Constantinople, Mediterranean cities and city walls, some Asian influences. I got the idea. I think that was actually something I read in the book, that the Thaylens really love to be floral in painting their houses, and sometimes it's just these single lines that stuck in my head, and I remember them because I have illustrated my way through at least the first 3 books. relatively closely. So there's a lot of this information swimming somewhere in my head like that. I remember this about this thing. Okay, let's see if I can. And often I actually find it. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. So I knew I wanted to painted houses for a Thailand city. I also was thinking of kind of merchant city. And for me, that means, because I live in the north of Germany, like Hanse city, so Bremen. I don't know. So it was a weird mixture of a lot of things, and like also 16th, 17th century, like North Sea harbor ports, and I don't know. And then you kind of see what comes from that. So that is kind of woodwork, like the woodwork that looks like scales. The idea that they paint the houses, but then also again, a lot of it is also what makes sense within the world. So on from that, like, okay, they paint the houses, but they have these storms. So how would that influence their whole architecture? And that is, okay, the most painting is actually underneath the roof, because that's where the rain really doesn't come. There's a lot of house painting that is like that. Like, for example, in December, I was in Bavarian Bergtolz, and they had these beautiful patterns exactly under the roof. So it's a wild mix out of book logic, my own experiences, just looking at the world and going into Google image search and type for blah blah blah. Give me that. What can you find?
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And in the end, you can only see what comes out of it. I have a love for old cities, and there's a benefit to living in Europe, and because old cities, we do have my own hometown where I actually originally come from is very old. The house my mother currently lives in, was the house of my grandparents, is from the 1586 or something. So it's like this feel of this place has history. There are lovely little details everywhere that just tell something about the place. It has been lived in. Every detail tells a story, basically, and that's kind of what I think about often when I draw characters, when I draw fashion on them, when I draw places. Like you think about the haptic and the being there and the light and who is this person you're drawing? What they do? How do they feel in the moment?
I would. This is my jam. I can eat this all day. I would love, and this is not feasible and it's not realistic at all. But like, I would love for the world guide to come out, and then for you to go here, like for every illustration, here are some like cool, like the thing about the paint right under the overhangs for the roofs, because that's where the water wouldn't erase. So like that's a detail that I wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have noticed. Like I would have looked at the piece and gone, like, I probably would have picked on a couple of more basic things. Like I maybe would have identified, patterns in the paint, or like the design. Oh, this looks like it's coming from this period or from this culture or from this region or something like that. But like these small little details are things that I don't usually notice. And like, even if I notice them, I don't know I would have like known to interpret them in this way. And so I love that stuff so much. And so I just want a tour guide that can like hold my hand and go, so here's what happens here. I know you're a little dummy, but let me tell you about all of the like that is just the coolest thing possible for me.
I think it doesn't necessarily need to be like every detail explains. I think it just being there already adds to the general vibe of just there is stuff. And I hope that at least a lot of it can be sussed out in a way. You can look closer, and in a way, I love like if you remember the Christmas card from Dragonsteel last year that sadly wasn't sent out but was produced as a sticker, the Tress image.
That was the Tress one.
Just Easter eggs, putting in Easter eggs, like the whole concept of there's always another secret in a way. Like, how can I put more information in this thing? How can I make it interesting to look closer? Taking, for example, like, okay, if I put images under the roof here, what images would that be? What would Rosharans put there? Okay, they have fish, so let's make a fun, pretty little fish. They have sky eels. Okay, let's put a sky eel. Let's put some spren. So, or yeah, okay, let's put a wave spren or a river spren there. I love the Thaylen eyebrows. Okay, maybe they have a like culturally, maybe they have a thing where the windows are the eyes of the house. So is there like maybe a belief that they protect the house? So you have these closed eyes painted in front of your window. What's it called?
Shutters.
Yeah, to kind of, and since it's Thaylen, let's add some of the long white eyebrows. So yeah, kind of this kind of what, like, that's the fun thing. It doesn't have to be directly picked somewhere out of our world. Our world is fantastic. There are so many interesting ways people live their life, and understanding why and how they live their life and how and why their culture works the way it works is just fascinating and very inspiring. At the same time, especially given with such an interesting world and universe Brendan has created, there are so many. I think that is also what makes his work and his world building so interesting, that it has a lot of potential for exactly these kind of little in-world building things to add and enrich, that there's a feeling of aliveness, of culture actually developing, and people living their idiosyncratic lives and have their own cultural concepts that don't need to be one-to-one from real world concept, like real world things, but to have the same kind of spirit, I guess.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be one-to-one. Like I shouldn't be able to look at Thaylen City and go, that's a German city that was copy-pasted from the 17th century.
And that's often what I find boring in fantasy settings, that you have these very, like, okay, I've seen that, I know where that's from. It works for some, but the interesting thing is to try to find something that feels real but is very different, but also kind of something you can recognize.
And especially with Roshar, right? Because Roshar, like with Scadrial, right, with Mistborn, you can it is meant to be a little bit more earthy. Like it is meant to be the Earth analog, right? And obviously you still wouldn't want to copy paste things, but like a Gothic cathedral is, for the most part, a Gothic cathedral.
It is, yeah. Also, I've seen a lot of like Southeast Asian interpretations that look also pretty sweet. My personal pet peeve is that the era 1 and era 2, how people dress look too similar to my mind. They should be further apart. If I had my complete way, I would put era 1 into like 16th century clothing, which have a completely different silhouette than anything era 2, which looks a little bit weird and ridiculous to modern eyes, but it's not a modern silhouette in how people will just look.
Well, I am looking forward to you illustrating all of Rhythm of War, and then illustrating all of Mistborn, Era 1 and Era 2. I think you can do that in 2 weeks. Does that sound feasible?
Sure.
Okay,
The problem is I wanted so much to go through Rhythm of War before Wind and Truth comes out. I didn't have the time. I started last summer and then got stuck in a big thing I want to make. And I haven't had the energy or the time to do it since then because I had to make workbook art.
working on like the biggest art project the Cosmere has ever seen takes time? No. Perish the thought. I see you have pulled up something on screen that I wanted to ask you about, and so I am
Sure.
I am glad you have anticipated the thought, which was and I'm sure this has a name, but like the Thaylen City big old clock. I think that's the official name.
It's just the big clock. I if it has a proper name, I don't know it yet.
Yeah, so if we have the Big Ben, but Ben is not a Thaylen name, so it's like the big but I don't know. Chat, help me out. No, there's no chat. Comments, help me out. Put your
just
best.
a big febrile clock.
Yeah, but we gotta we gotta give it a name. So I want to see in the comments suggestions for the Thaylen version of Big Ben. What is that called? Okay, now
it's not as big as Big Ben.
Okay, let's not focus on the dumb things that I'm saying and instead focus on the pretty things that we are seeing on screen. What are we looking at here, Marie?
I don't know. We were talking about what could be seen. What would be like something you visit as a tourist in Thailand City? And I don't know. I think in the Cosmere in the RPG group we kind of discussed fabrials, and so we were like, okay, clocks are actually already a thing. So I guess Thailand City can have a cool febrile clock, like a big one. And I was thinking of the big. Oh God, is it in Prague? There is this big astrolabium somewhere, like a middle-aged one of the first big clocks that are still existing, and it's a beautiful thing.
Astrolabes.
And I think that was an inspiration to make something similar for Thailand City, and just was interesting to think about. Oh, okay, they actually structure the hours like in a 20-hour cycle, 10 hours per day, 10 hours per night. And kind of work out from there. Yeah, I don't know if this is the best clock design ever, just the numbers are fairly small. But I thought, okay, maybe it has a cool feature too, where it like shows the counts down the days to the next high storm, which sounds like a very cool feature and necessary feature to have. So every citizen can go there and go like, oh, that's only 4 days. Okay. You could bring in the number system that we already know exists. And for the night, each hour, actually, these patterns you see here are one of the 10 essences that are regarding in the order of the heralds. And you got some gravity spren, some little wind spren. I thought if it was a Thailand depiction of the Storm Father, of course, yes, Thailand heroes.
I thought I saw the eyebrows and I'm like, that's fun. That's clever. Yes. I like that.
Other things like, wouldn't like something that the tour guide told me was, okay, currently actually it's very fashionable for the youth to style their eyebrows like it's stormlight wafting off their face because radiant's a thing again and they're really cool. So yeah, that affects fashion. And to add little beauty spren in there. They're not named, but I feel like we should canonize the beauty spren. No, the handsome spren. That's actually
okay. Cool. Because I was gonna say these look suspiciously like the sparkles emoji, which we know to be handsome spren.
Exactly. If there's any opportunities for me to hint and canonize fandom things like handsome spren, I will try to figure it out.
Incredible. Absolutely.
The trick about handsome spren, you attract them around objects yourself or other people that are thought handsome thoughts about. You can draw them for yourself. You can draw them for other things or people.
That's I mean that's just science to me, right? That's
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, obvious. The things you learn when you travel Roshar. Same with the lifts, like with the whole, like for some places I had like actual maps to work from.
Yes.
And I try to actually adhere to these maps as much as possible. Isaac was like, no, you don't need to. And I'm like, yes. So
Yeah.
how do you? So I got a lot of like trying to do 3D things in my brain. I did draw Thaylen City before for a little comic in which Navani rides a pelican with Dalina, and I had Thaylen City in the background. And for that, I was like, okay, there are so many tiers in the city. Like, okay, this is high up, this is less high up. So how do I understand the room and space for this, for the overview of this? And what I ended up was like doing this in Procreate and made little tiles that are just moved upwards like an isometric view of the city, and kind of said, okay, this tier is this up high, this up high, this up high. And from that kind of try to basically fly around the city, look at it from different points of views, and trying to kind of understand it in
Yeah, and I mean, like 3D modeling is like a completely, and obviously you're not like fully doing a 3D model of this thing here, but it's a perfectly reasonable way to approach something like that, right? When we were working with God, what was his name? Hugh Hammonds, I want to say, Hug Ham on Instagram. We did like a Eurythero commission, and we recently did Floating Cities of Ashen commission. The way he works is he will often, if not always, model the thing that he wants to paint, and then just like essentially paint over the 3D model, which
yes
makes for a and that's not just him. Like a while back, we had a new Saren commission from Lorena. She also did a similar thing, and that's
we had someone do that for Rall Elorim too. Like and yeah, so for a pretty painted version of it, yeah, he did that, and then I went back in like, no, not like that, not like that. I had started doing a Blender course in my last like year or semester at uni. I had to drop out because there were other things I needed to be doing, and in the end, I kind of turned back, tried to do it in my head. There was one model I built for the World Guide, like an actual paper model, but that was for a room, and I built the stupid building out of paper. And because I wanted it to be 5-sided, and I wanted to need like a special view into the room. It had like a dome on top, and I'm like, how can I do this? So I built it out of paper and then photographed into it with my camera. And then I kind of went back into perspective construction onto the iPad, and then somehow managed to do that stupid room where you both see into the room and then open up into the dome and see actually a full build. Yeah.
That sounds fun.
So yeah, but that was as you can see, I had several, like I tried to test out, okay, from which side do I actually show the city? Where do we see more? And do I do an establishment shot from sea? This little piece here about the new harbors they established after the first ever storm, a bit further away. I got to actually do for the Chasmfiend magazine, so I'm happy I managed to do that after all. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that in the end you kind of have to cut out and can only show so much on the page that is actually in the book.
Regrettably.
And it's always hard not to get hung up too much about like, where does all the creme go in a city? Does it hang on the roof? How are the roofs? How how does the wind affect the city? Do they have round buildings? Do they have flat, like, yeah.
Well, so
Does it have a sewage system?
That's maybe something we can use as a segue, because specifically the shape of the buildings and how wind interacts with that. So recently we did an interview with Johnny Brotherwise himself, Johnny O'Neill. I'm the only one who knows Johnny Brother. Yes, yes. And one of the things he showed off there was kind of a series of sketches to illustrations from you of the Alethi war camps, kind of starting from an early concept. And the reason I was reminded of that was because one of the things was designs for barracks that we are told they use in the war camps, and we know that Kaladin was strung up from one of them, and as the wind was blowing, like he would fall on one side or the other. And so I imagine there was a conversation there of, well, what does that actually look like? So I was hoping you can pull those up and you can kind of like walk us a little bit through the process of, I imagine you have a conversation or you get an email or whatever, and it says, oh, we want to do this thing. And so you like sketch some things down, you put together some concepts, and then you present those concepts. And what kind of feedback do you get? How do you process that feedback, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, the Wacom page is the second page I made, but yeah, I had the sketches fairly on that. I think that's the page that actually I finalized then the fastest, because I had already done a lot of work for that. So it was several sketches, like how would a gate look, how do the craters look. Yeah, there you go. Those are the shapes.
Yeah.
And for these bunkers, because I remember them being like very rectangular, and in that case, like I basically it often was, not always, but often was, I compiled my sketches, my moods, and there's some moods for the Wacams. There wasn't so many. And then get actually written notes, either like get the PDF back with notes on it saying like this, not like this. Oh yeah, we like this. Or I just get written, like I'm in contact with Johnny via Discord, and he says like, oh yeah, they like this and this. Maybe you can use that and that. And so these were like the Lagerleben in the war camps, like how would the bankers, like it's for the war camps more, I think, than with other cities, but you always have to kind of think, where is the east? Where does the wind come from?
Well, these days it goes from both directions, so.
True, yes, but so I like, I don't know, sometimes then where the whole idea about, okay, how what war camps, like what is the gate? Well, how does the gate work? How do they have window shutters? So I came up with the sliding shutters, which I still like. And there's a lot of people who are not in like solid buildings, but kind of live in tents and then go in public storm shelters once the storms come. There are some built buildings, not so cast buildings, that kind of then, how would they structure if they have wooden like parts? So is there like a wall that uses to kind of ease some of the wind? I mean, the crater itself does that already, but still, and is like the whole roof like a garage door that you can then close it down. The least slide. And yeah, so they tell me, oh, we like that, that's cool, and kind of some finding views. And I've mentioned that before in a post. For all of these sketches, I want them from a point of view that feels human, like someone stood there, sat there, and sketched something, like I would do when I actually go around on holiday. I'm just trying to capture live there. So once I know, okay, these are the elements we want to have on the world like a world book page, I let's see here, yeah, I go into make little thumbnails. Those look like this, and which is often like, okay, these are the elements. This is how I would distribute them over the page. It's more like, okay, can I fit everything on there that I want to fit on? What is like I said, I always have like an establishing shot. I have some smaller details. I have a bit of more lively scene, maybe some more schematic things, and what do we need to throw out in the end? Just because to make the more convoluted layout of this page flow easily despite all the information on it. And that's basically the point where we decide, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this actually too small. Or do we have more space for something else? That is a nice detail. So in this case, it was the establishing onto the war camps up there, which I really liked. It was the gates, which we then ended like showing as it is being shut close, because I'm approaching high storm. We got the layout of these bunkers and the tavern scene at the bottom, which is the bigger, more colorful image. And for these, like, I get a clear, okay, like feedback then from Johnny, who's shown it to Isaac, Ben, and Ben in the art review, and says, okay, this works, I like this, or we like this. And then from that, I go and make a proper sketch. Let me see where it is. So it's more, this is then still in, like, I make thumbnails, I make a pre-sketch, I make a pre-line sketch, and then I do the actual lines. So this is still like the scribble of the actual, okay, this is the layout, to kind of go closer into, these are the actual things you want to have on the page. Just kind of adding more detail, getting more specific with each iteration. In this, the whole female messenger was added, where you can see I had tried it a few times. Do I switch it to this side? And once I know, okay, these are like the actual things that are on the page, and this is how they will look. Then I go back actually onto my larger screen, which is on work in Photoshop, make another line sketch to make it as close to how I want it in the final. Then I work on my bigger Cintiq instead of my iPad, so I have a bit more, it feels different to work in a bigger size. Resketch everything again, add in the text I want to have. In this case, we skipped the schematic and just showed these sliding gates. I think I scrap the text for it. I can use like the mirroring tool to make some nice glyphs here for the tavern.
Can we zoom in on those glyphs a little bit? They look great. I wanna.
Ah, yes, it's the little like caps and the.
Yeah, because we are told, right, that a lot of the times you would have, like, to accommodate a Lethe society where men cannot read, shops and other like establishments will not have the name of the thing in there. They would have a glyph that visually resembles what the thing is. So, like, a bookstore or a tavern in this case. So shaping that as a bottle or as a cup or as a goblet, I love that. This is, and it looks amazing. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and doing this also forces me to kind of think about actual details, like, is there crumb hanging off the roof? How do these shutters work? Who is sitting there in the spa? What are they doing? Oh, back here, what is there? Oh, there's a public storm shelter. Okay, what glyph do I give that? So after that, I'd print that out on paper, a little bit bigger than it will be. And let me see, is that I think so. And I go to the, oops, sorry, that's fine. I go to a light table, which we have in the studio, and do use ink and pen to actually draw the lines and sketch them, and make a proper actual drawing. If it's a little pet peeve of mine that the diegetic art in the actual books is digital. It looks fantastic, but it doesn't have this kind of grungy haptic that I associate with something that is drawn with real material on real paper. And I knew I had to make most of this actually digital, and every step of it is digital apart from the lines. I really wanted to have it somewhere where I actually am using real ink on real paper to give it this handmade quality. And I'm glad with the process and how it developed, because for it kind of, I could like lead the way as best as possible with the digital sketches, but then had to be super consequent with the actual drawing. Like you cannot, you can erase digital if something goes completely bad, but you're like, okay, this line, it's there. It is how it came out. That's how it is now. You don't question the line. It's just there, and you don't think about if it is perfect. Could I redo it? It's just there, and I think it brings kind of a lively quality to everything. Then once it's scanned, I put, because I can scan only on A4. Most of these drawings pages are on several, like two or more pages. And I build everything together in Photoshop, and then I go into load the file into Procreate and color it. So these are some stages where you see it's not fully colored yet. I started to just test out what the colors will be, so I can still paint over the lines where I feel like I don't need. I can let them stay. Sorry, I'm going to the finalized version. This is actually you don't have a North Pole in these maps. You have obviously pointing where the origin is. So this goes into this, where the workers actually are in the shadow planes. There is the gate scene with soldiers rushing to close the gate. You take off the flags. Windspread are coming. You get the storm shadows soldiers. We're obviously in Zabriel's camp due to the gold and black colors.
Obviously, yeah, everyone would know that.
Obviously. And just trying to show who is running around there. We get this, I don't know, scribe handing a messenger something. We have two Ardents running around with some love to spend, if you can make them out. We get a Thaylen merchant talking to each other. We get, here's a Cullen soldier. They're playing something, making food. This is the public storm shelter with like a high storm glyph on it. And yeah, just trying. I just love like what is happening in the scene. What would like everyday life feel in the work camps? It doesn't have to be a big exciting story. It's just everyday life. And you see a little bit of the Thaylen architecture. So whoever Thaylen merchant came there, took inspiration with them. So crisscrossing references, may it be to the books or even inside the world books.
I mean, Brandon has this whole thing about, hey, have you heard about the Cosmere? There are Easter eggs and connections in all sorts of unexpected places.
There's always another secret.
There's always another secret, yeah.
Also, just showing plans, like this place isn't old. Like this house is not old. It has been built in the last 7 years, maybe, and probably 3 or 5. But there has been storms. So, and over there's Krem, there is Lichen, there are plants growing there somewhere. Yeah, I think I had a chat. I talked with a friend yesterday about how often the clothes are so pristine. Everything looks pristine in art. And it's like, no, it's spongy. There's dirt. And yeah, it's kind of funny because I started out illustrating the Way of Kings in 2020 to practice scenery and full illustrations and backgrounds and just general layout, because it was a little bit of a comfort zone, I guess. And now that's the main thing I'm doing for this.
Well, I mean, good
yeah.
thing you got that practice in.
Yeah, this is practice. I hope I gotten better while doing these. I tried to up myself with each one. I don't know if I succeeded, but we'll see.
I mean, I don't know. They look pretty good to me.
Thank you. Yeah. So you got another question or anything?
Yeah. I think we've covered 2 questions so far.
So process this is.
I wanted to go back to your little Lightweaver World Hopper person, and just I'm not gonna ask too much about them, but I'll just go. Do you have like a story in your head of like who they are and what they're doing and what their whole deal is, other than just drawing things?
Not too much. In a weird way, I was handed the opportunity to kind of tuckerize myself. They have a name now, which is Dulac, mostly because Johnny asked if we give this like the Chasm theme article, which I bring that up, yeah. So yeah, right. The name for the character now is Dulac. They have a first name, I guess, but that's not important. There's not much to tell about them. They are Lightweaver. They have spent some time there in Roshar, traveling around. They have bonded with Spren.
A very excitable cryptic.
Yes, he's cute. And yeah, there's not much story to them really.
Okay, fantastic. That makes the question easy.
I don't even know where they come from, if they are from Scadrial or not. Just a world hopper character.
They got to the planet where you can have magic art illusion thing going on, so benefits. I guess if they're from Nalthis, that's also like a good like a beneficial world to be from because of the color recognition and other benefits from breath.
Yeah, I guess so. I always find that very. For some reason I found that like capability always very kind of irritating. I don't know. Finding the purest of pure. It's like.
Yes. So you subscribe to the Hoid school of thought, which is, now that I have Rosharan light weaving, it is almost too easy.
I can understand that, yeah. But I feel like I'm more like the truth is more than just pure tones and pure colors, please.
Fair.
This blue is bluer than the other one. I'm like, okay. Probably. How do we measure this?
Wavelengths. Yeah. Anyway, we now know that you are going to be included in the Words of Radiance Leatherbound. You have the iconic boots scene is getting a little bit of an uplift, a little bit of a fresh coat of paint, if you will, and is going to be showing up in the Leatherbound. I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about or comment on the difference, if any, between working with Dragonsteel directly for something like that versus working with Brotherwise on, all of the billion landscapes that you were doing for the RPG.
I mean, it's different in that one thing is this big ongoing project with just this massive amount of openness, I guess, because there is a lot of things, like big and small things to be decided in the world building, especially since in part it was about images that or places that haven't been depicted yet in the books or even in fan art. And like Rall Elorim, for example. And but also small things like certain spread or certain places because they are too mundane or just don't happen in the books or didn't get art specifically. So there was a lot of like being part and taking part of the world building and kind of this whole collecting, refining, rethinking, discussing parts like world building concepts and ideas in comparison to for doing illustrations for the leatherbound books. Isaac came to me like, you already made this, can you redo this for us? Or even in case of in case of the Hoyt and Shelland image under the elegies, we really would like to buy the rights to that. I'm like, no, I can do this better now. Let me do it, please. If I do this over the weekend, can you? And you can decide it on Monday next week, okay? So yeah. So for that, it was this image, these characters, and the situation. And so it was way less open-ended than the Worldbook things. And also, I have much more opportunity to closely or easily talk to Johnny than I can to Isaac, of course. I mean, I love Isaac, he's great. And I have done things with him, but it's often then via email, and it's more singular things. Well, the other thing is just this giant thing where I'm working and amassing my own ideas and trying to present them like, hey, I think this. Do you think this too? Does it work? And then there is either there's no feedback or there's like, yeah, cool, or like, no, something different.
Yeah,
take Singer architecture for example. I made so many drawings for Singer architecture, and it was super difficult to kind of suss out something that Brendan really liked and said like, yeah, this feels right, because I feel that was just something where my envisioning diverts from what he thinks about it in some ways. So I made so many concepts.
I personally, and I don't have a reason to believe that, but like, I don't know if Brandon has clear images of what things look like as he is writing. I feel like he just kind of goes for a vibe, and then when art is presented to him, he once again goes off of vibes. I don't know if that's the case. He just doesn't. Maybe it's the fact that he doesn't like describe a lot of things in a great level of detail that makes me go, oh, if it's not presented on page, then only what is presented on page exists in his, like, which might be a flawed way of thinking, but it's kind of the image that I have for the way he writes. So and I'm also, I feel like the singers were done a little bit dirty in the world building of Roshar, and so part of me always tends to assume that they are one of my favorite things about Roshar. And whenever we spend so much time in like human society, and then we go off to a singer POV, and it's like, well, they lived in a thing where they lived in and it had stuff. And I'm like, that's Brandon, give them more culture, please. So there's also that aspect where I'm like, I just want more.
I I think with the whole, because we are currently, well, not totally at the beginning anymore, but the canonization of visuals has only been started properly in the last 2 to 3 years, I'd say. Started
Essentially with the
images,
minis.
yes.
Yeah.
And I kind of loved, or still do love, that also about the fan art and everything, that there's this kind of openness about how things are supposed to look. It's my big fear, if there's ever made a movie, and by God, it will be not an animation. It will be an animation movie because, but it will look real, which is sad. That then this takes over the complete, that takes everything. Like, this is how it looks now. And I feel like as long it is like illustration or animation, it has a certain abstractness and openness, more to it actually than when it is a real life image. Because then that's this whole discussion of, oh, they don't look like that. I kind of like that there are so many different versions of the singers out there in the fandom, that people, because they are difficult to visualize or to interpret, because people got confused by the description or whatever, that there are interesting, like that is where it's really interesting. How do people try to visualize these people? It took me a long time to kind of come to my own headcanon conclusion, which differs in some ways from the canon version. And I think it's interesting for myself, at least, to kind of suss out how my headcanon, which I think I did a relatively well job to establish before I start making official art, and now changes because I have the actual official art references right there in front of me, but also in how far I can bring my headcanon into the official headcanon too. Yeah. To kind of, I like to imagine it like this. Can I bring this in there?
We are taking a brief break from Stormlight to go into Stormlight. We are going to talk a little bit about Wind and Truth. Brandon read, so this is your disclaimer, right? There was an interlude that was read a while back, the DL interlude. If you have read that, that's all we're going to be talking about here. You are safe to stay. If you have not read that, if you don't want to hear us talk about it, if you don't want to see beautiful, beautiful art done for that interlude, which was also included in the Chasm Fiend magazine, Volume 1, which suggests things, then there will be a timestamp in the depths of this video. You can skip this Wind and Truth conversation. But this is your spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the DL interlude. Last call. Last call. All right, let's look at some pretty things.
Okay. So this is, Johnny asked me to do, if I wanted to do a tiny little vignette illustration. And I was like, reading it and go like, would it be more interesting to show like something different? And in the end, I got like basically a full page to illustrate. So the interlude is featuring the family of the Truth Watcher character from an earlier interlude, and our three world hoppers looking for Hoyd. And so it was fun because I now had the opportunity to make canon illustrations for three characters that haven't really had Baon had.
Except for Baon, yes.
And it's Ramu, Galadon, and Baon. Yeah, I feel fairly good about these. I think I actually read at Galadon's nose a little bit, just for my own pleasure. But talking about earlier about Brandon and wives, the absolute lovely story is that I was relayed to me by Johnny, was that when they had the art review and they showed him this piece, apparently he had a little moment. We just looked at them, smiled, and said, "I look at them. That's them." And everyone was like, "Ah, that means so much." And I was, "Oh God, yes, I understand." Thank you. But also because when Johnny said, "Oh, characters," then it's gonna be like a whole thing with feedback and getting the okay and everything. But apparently, Isaac was like, Marie, she can do it. It's fine." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm very happy I didn't disappoint anyone. So yeah, it's had a long thing about the whole Iriali skin tone, which was a lot of like, ooh, how to make people look golden, but not too dark, not too light. And yeah, and also Missprint. Jessica did a beautiful Missprint for the campaign. And I had a lot of yeah, I had a lot of, I have a big collection folder on Instagram where I just collect. One of them is just called Roshar Inspo, and it's mostly just weird deep sea creatures and art installations and weird light effects for, I don't know, magic, strength, cool landscapes. And I had a load of like light effects that I think like, okay, maybe Mistran, how could they look different? So that they all look kind of similar, but you can also make out different personalities. You look at two different like Mistran and they do look like different. Yeah. And this was kind of what came out there, and I think it works, yeah, for now. I had this whole thing about the ones making little figurines. So I added a shoemaker and like a healer for them and some shoes.
I do love this piece so much. Bayon's energy is just incredible in this thing.
You're like, oh. and I got the opportunity between all these world illustration to actually go back into like emoting characters, which is just my favorite thing to do. Yeah. I get a bit. If I meant it, I once again recognize if I do the same thing for too long and don't do different things, I kind of get tired.
Yeah.
Look good for more energy. Yeah, but it was nice to having table have this a little more looser at the edges. Yeah. Yeah, so that's that.
Okay. So welcome back. If you left, if you didn't leave, this transition is weird for you, but such is the reality of doing timestamp skips. We are done talking about Stormlight 5, and we are judging by the preview that is either on screen or will show up on screen in a moment. We are coming back to Stormlight 2.
I don't know. I just put something up.
Okay.
Since I mentioned that earlier, that was that was the one I said like no, I redo that.
Okay.
Let me redo
that. Is there anything that you want to like either point out or talk about in this piece, or do we just want to have that as a backdrop of, oh, that's pretty?
I don't know. I like it. I still like it. I'm glad I got to illustrate Hoyt and Shallan and Adolin and Antideus and Kaladin. It's good.
It's a little baby Shallan. She's tiny.
Yeah. She has on her first like adult dress.
Yeah. No, it's especially having come from the previous Shallan piece that we looked at, which is like a couple of years after this one, maybe 3 years after this one or something like that. You can see the difference in just, I mean, obviously she's playing a persona there, so like the way she acts in the boots scene is very different, but also just she looks like a little baby.
Yeah, just hugging her safe hand sleep like that.
Yeah, That's really cute. That's really cute.
I mean, I think that was the first one. Like, yes, I got my vision of the yellow trees. It's kind of nice.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Yeah, I think it's like for all leather-bound pieces, I try to make these so I can still look at them in several years later. After I finish them, look at them for like, oh yeah, that's still good enough. Yeah, because like I said, you do a lot of art and you kind of notice you improve, which is great. But it also makes you look at all older stuff and go like, all right.
Maybe I can fix this in a weekend.
I cannot recommend it. Really.
I mean, I am. I don't have an artistic bone in my body, but this is not too dissimilar from software, where you would be hard pressed to find any engineer with like a plural number of years of experience who looks back at their old work and goes, yep, I wrote this well. I wouldn't change anything here. So there is
this totally okay. Yeah.
And like I have a little soapbox that I like to get on every now and then, which is the idea that software engineering and development are actually more creative processes than a lot of people give them credit for, which is oddly something that like Brandon shares as an opinion. Like if you listen to, like, he hasn't told the story in a while, I don't think, but he used to tell a story of how like he would go to other like classes in college and just like get a breadth of knowledge about different things. And like the one thing that he couldn't do was software, because he found out that it like tires the same area of his brain as writing does. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why I can't put a news post at the end of the day when I've done 8 hours of coding. But anyway, so that's my little soapbox.
Yeah. Talking about like looking back on older stuff. I love looking back at older stuff. I enjoy it. Usually I do like the things I make and I enjoy looking at them again. It depends on the day. Like there are days where I look at them for like, oh yeah, this turned out really well. And there are days where like only see the mistakes and the stuff I will like, oof, yeah, okay. I started like a there's an InDesign file where I add in characters pages, and those are the ones I posted at the end of each year, like little squares where I collect basically. I've made an image of this character. It's for some reason important enough that I include it in this collection, just to kind of, for my own curiosity, to see how my depictions of said characters develops over the years, and how is there an improvement in like for example in like how am I able to depict skin or ethnicity or something like that. Because yeah, I tried to become better. I still do, I guess, at it. And I think it's legit to have this kind of progress. And yeah, next step.
Hey, always the next step.
Because there's definitely some art where I'm going like, oh, I would like to redo that by now. Can I show this as a print? Would I rework it before doing that? We already talked about singer art earlier, so here we got Evgeni and Rain. So these are a lot of my Rain depictions. Like I like the official eyes are different. That's always where I can decide, okay, this is my head canon. In my mind, singers have human eyes that are bigger and shinier. I think that Wendy depiction here was the first one where I felt like, yeah, got them right.
Yeah,
but now I look at it and feel like now I look at it and go like, it's like too white. I would do it a little bit different. But that was my goal for the whole fan art thing, where like, okay, I got it this time. I got close to them. Okay. And then I try again, and like, okay, now I got them. Now I got what they look like to me. And so yeah, a bit like this. There is Lift, Seth. So this is a big document by now, as you can tell.
Well, a lot of characters multiplied by a lot of illustrations of said characters results in just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of wrap up the Cosmere RPG things, I wonder if there is either a piece, or not necessarily a piece, but like a subject or a domain that you've worked on for this project that you are particularly proud of, and one that you found particularly challenging.
There are several, I guess. I think the one that is the challenging part, like I said, was trying to up myself with each page. Like, okay, can I make this work better? Which kind of came to the point where I just put so much pressure on myself that it was kind of, too much, I guess. So I have a weird, and I'm going to show the Rall Elorim page now, because again, it was the first page that I started on, and it's the page I reworked lately. After I made a lot of other pages in between. And I'm showing this page because it was the first I tried out what I wanted to do with this. So it looks a little bit different than the others. It's more tone in the coloration, because I had a specific mood lighting in mind, this kind of hazy, sunlit thing going on there. I had a lot of small images that are then composite in Photoshop, which turn out to be a bit of a really annoying thing to navigate. So now I only have 2 separate layers that are the line work, and not 5 or 6. So I'm not trying for that flexibility of adjusting everything then digitally, but saying, okay, this is the layout. I just draw it, and then I build 2 blocks together, or 3 at the most. But yeah, with this one, this went through the most changes, I guess, because I was trying things out, what worked, what doesn't work. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, I think this is okay now. I'm not sure how happy I am with it, but it has to suffice. I have to do other things. Then much later on, so that was probably in February, I guess. So much later on in June, Gordon is doing the actual design and layout of the books, like the world book and the player book handbook. And I finally got the actual layout. Like, text does, and important bits shouldn't go further than that. And I'm like, okay, can you send that to me? I have to rework all my illustrations to adhere to that.
Oh,
which
no.
I did. It wasn't too much. It was okay. And then Johnny came. I was like, actually, we added like these hanging towers to Rall Elorim. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I have to rework this too. Okay. It looks like the last Airbender temple, like the Western Air Temple. And he's like, nah. and I looked it up. Okay, no, it doesn't look like it, but it really reminds me. It doesn't look like it. It's fine. So I did another, like, I think I did an ink drawing and built that in and reworked it and reworked the whole page a little bit. And at the end, I looked at it and was like, yeah, yeah, this is working now. Yes. I I have learned, I have journeyed, and I've come back, and I know better now for some reason. So I'm really happy with how this looks now. Happier than I've been in February when I said that was finished.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, but again, there are a lot of challenging things overall because, like I said, drawing scenery is not something that I have explicitly done a lot before, but is something that I wanted to learn. And I am very much the learning by doing type. So having to do this again and again and again, training my eye in my mind's eye to kind of visualize spaces, landscape, colors, like light atmospheres, was challenging. Definitely, that's why it was kind of exhausting making these. But also because I had to do so much research and thinking and like constructing and composing and world building. And yes, that's. I at the start of the year I was beginning to realize that these need a lot of time and space and energy to kind of being able to be developed. And I wasn't able to do so much other work because I am working in other areas and doing other jobs. And I do want to work more on the RPG, but I hope I find ways that don't kind of take as much time and space and energy for me to do that. Because yeah, they like, yeah, this is it was in June, July, I kind of felt like I don't want to draw right now, honestly. What do I do tonight? I don't want to. And this scared me. I don't like that. I want to sit down and go like, oh, let's sketch something.
It does.
So
It does
yeah,
seem
I
like
hope, yeah.
it does seem like a lot of work. Just not only in terms of like effort, but also just the sheer like number of pieces that you've had to do.
Yeah, and then you look over it and like go like, oh, it's like 9 pages. Is that much? I don't know. Should be. Feels like it should be more.
Well, but 9 pages. But every page is like I'm looking at Rall Elorim, right? And I see, 4 distinct illustrations in there, plus a bunch of like little items.
True. The thing is, like, it will be interesting how I look at these like in a year once I had some like distance. Because by now I'm at the stage where I'm looking at all these pages and go like, I can't judge anymore if they're good or not. They just are. I
Oh
hope
yeah,
they
no.
suffice.
Hey, let me tell you, once you read Wind and Truth 5 times, you get real tired of that book.
Yes, I can imagine.
So I get that feeling.
Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
I see. So one of the benefits of you recording where you are is that I can tell that it's gotten dark in your side of
It's
the world.
past 9.
So I do wanna wrap us up and
Yes.
just kind of go. Where can people find you online? Do you have any non-Cosmere, non-Brandon presence that people might want to know? I know you did some Magnus Archives stuff a while back, which is something I am getting into now. But Magnus is my 3rd podcast, so I am extremely slow in going through it. So just kind of giving you an open floor of where you are, where can people find you, uh, anything you want to plug, any interesting projects and things like that. So the mic's yours.
Oh God. Well, yeah, they can find me on Tumblr. There is where the Magnus Archive stuff is. It can be found on Instagram. That's where also, like on Tumblr, the Cosmere stuff is. I do have another Instagram account, which is just Seeberger.illustration. But it's not very active, to be honest. It has sketches and pictures, like photos of stuff like the phone there. Yeah, I do other kinds of illustration. I work with a group of 3 other illustrators here in Germany called Die Zeichner, where we do business to business illustration, like more. We do graphic recording, we do live drawing, like on events, speed portraits. So I do live drawing and just sketch people in a few minutes in front of me, which is very challenging and also fun. I do like future, like for companies, we do more like visions build like images to envision like their program for the year, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. So that is very different from that, and I also, my stuff looks very different for that. I did my master in informative illustration, so that is, I would always love to do science illustration, like anything in science communication. I got a request this week, which sounded super interesting, which I couldn't do because it would be unfair to all these stuff I'm already doing at the current time. But yeah, so people can find me on Behance under my full name, Marie Seeberger. There are some things that don't look like Cosmere at all, I think. And other than that, yeah, you can contact me basically both on Tumblr and on Instagram. That's, I will be reachable there, even if it's not for Cosmere art. Although I have to do, because people have been asking me ever so often, I have been refraining from doing commissions for a long time because the fan art things I do for my own pleasure, and I want it to be so mainly to keep it away from making money from it. I do set prints on InPrint under LaMaery and in Redbubble under LaMaery. I'm very bad at managing these pages. I should put up more prints. Eventually there will be more prints. But yeah, because yeah, so if you want to have like art or prints of some of my art, you can find it there. And yeah, I think I hope that's it.
Okay, well, lovely. Thank you. I think we'll wrap this up. If we had more people on this interview, we might have done a little game where we guess Cosmere characters based on clues, but we don't. So we'll just kind of end this lovely interview. I love just sitting and like looking at art and hearing explanations about like little things about why they were done, inspirations and things like that. But we gotta wrap up at some point, and this point is now. This has been not a shard cast, not a splinter cast, but an interview cast. I don't know. We'll figure something out. You can find us on 17shard.com for news, theories, discussions, and fun is, I think, what we usually say. Our Discord server is really where most of the fun is happening. Discord.com/17shard. You can join us and be among the first to see new LaMaery art, because I refresh her Instagram obsessively, and the moment there is something new, I post it there.
You will like the next thing, Evgeni.
Ooh.
You will like it. Yeah.
Very nice.
I think so. More romance.
Oh ho ho. But that's it. That's it. She ruined my intro. Yeah, so
thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us. Bye everyone.
Ciao.